Imagine a massive, unseen region that seamlessly connects the towering peaks of the Himalayas, the vast expanses of the Indian Ocean, and the bustling economic hubs of Southeast Asia. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're zooming in on a geopolitical giant that sits quietly right at the intersection of some of the world's absolutely most critical trade routes. We're talking about an organization that manages strategic energy corridors and vital networks, yet it somehow flies completely under the radar. The sheer staggering scale of this region is honestly hard to overstate. 1.8 billion people. That is nearly 1/4 of humanity living in these fast-growing economies. So when we talk about this area, we aren't just talking about a small, localized alliance, right? We are talking about a massive chunk of the global population. This number represents a huge market, an incredible labor force, and some of the most dynamic economic potential on the planet today. And that brings us to a bit of a mystery. How is it possible that an organization with this much potential, one focused heavily on the Bay of Bengal, remains basically unknown to the general public? Could this specific group actually be the key to shaping the future of jobs, energy, and security across the entirety of Asia? Could it actually become more critical to the region's future than other, way more famous alliances? Well, let's find out. Section 1. Deconstructing BIMSTEC. Let's dive right into this acronym. BIMSTEC stands for the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. Okay, I know, it's a total mouthful, but its core purpose is actually incredibly simple and highly strategic. It acts as a literal bridge between South Asia and Southeast Asia. For decades, these two regions were growing at a breakneck pace, but just remained insufficiently connected to one another. So BIMSTEC was created to be the platform that links them up, encouraging trade, improving infrastructure, and really promoting stability across the board. To really understand how this works, imagine 7 neighboring families living around the exact same lake. Historically, they might have all tried to build their own completely separate, overlapping roads, ports, and trade systems. But instead, what if they decide to cooperate? They share resources, they connect their docks, and they coordinate their security. By doing this, they all become richer, safer, and just much more efficiently connected. That is exactly what BIMSTEC is trying to do around the Bay of Bengal. So who exactly are the families living around this lake? Well, there are 7 member countries. We've got India, which is the largest economy in the group. We have Bangladesh, a massive manufacturing and trade gateway, which also uniquely hosts the organization's headquarters, the Secretariat, in Dhaka. Then we have Sri Lanka, Thailand, which acts as this vital link to the rest of Southeast Asia, along with Myanmar and the landlocked Himalayan nations of Nepal and Bhutan. Together, they form this complete strategic ring of cooperation. Now, this partnership definitely didn't happen overnight. It actually started back in 1997 in Bangkok, and it was originally known as BIMSTEC with just 4 members. Later that same year, Myanmar joined up. By 2004, Bhutan and Nepal came on board, expanding it to the BIMSTEC we know today. But notice the jump to the modern era here. Around 2014, the organization took on a much greater strategic focus, and then in 2022, they crossed a major institutional milestone by formally adopting the BIMSTEC Charter, signaling a serious, unified commitment to the future. To understand exactly why BIMSTEC was created, we really have to look at the 2 other major regional players. You've got SAARC, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, which focuses only on South Asia, and has, frankly, faced significant political limitations. Then there's ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which focuses only on Southeast Asia. BIMSTEC is the unique alternative that actively bridges the gap between both regions. It provides a platform where these countries can actually cooperate and get things moving, bypassing a lot of the political hurdles that have stalled other organizations. Section 2, the mechanics of connection. You might be wondering how 7 very different nations, with completely different strengths and industries, actually get anything done. Well, it's all in their governance flow. It starts at the top with a leader summit, flows down to ministerial meetings, then to senior officials, through the Secretariat in Dhaka, into very specific sectoral working groups, and finally to actual on-the-ground implementation. But the absolute most crucial point here is that decision-making is entirely consensus-based. Every single member has to discuss and agree before a major decision is made. So no single country officially dominates the process, and the leadership summits actually rotate among the members. So what are they actually implementing? Well, they focus on a few core cooperation pillars. And we're talking about very practical, real-world issues here. They're integrating transport networks, think linking up roads, railways, and ports, to seriously lower the cost of logistics.
They're having major discussions about cross-border energy trade and sharing renewable energy across an integrated grid. They collaborate on serious security issues too, specifically maritime security and counterterrorism, and they heavily support technology innovation and people-to-people connectivity through tourism and education. It really is a comprehensive approach to regional growth. Section 3. The India Factor.
As the largest economy and the only country sharing borders with almost all other BIMSTEC members, India's role as a strategic driver simply cannot be overstated. BIMSTEC is basically a tailor-made vehicle for India's foreign policy. It aligns seamlessly with India's Act East policy, aimed at deepening ties with Southeast Asia, as well as its Neighborhood First policy, prioritizing its immediate regional partners. Because of this, BIMSTEC is increasingly viewed not just as some local group, but as a foundational pillar of the much broader Indo-Pacific economic architecture. And this alignment has direct transformative power, especially for India's Northeast region. Historically, this has been a largely landlocked and geographically isolated area, but through BIMSTEC's road, rail, and port initiatives, the future of this region is looking entirely different. It is perfectly positioned to become a massive, thriving connectivity hub. It'll be the literal physical gateway linking India directly to Bangladesh, Myanmar, and right on into Thailand and the broader ASEAN markets. It is an absolute geopolitical game changer. But hey, we can't just talk about the land. We have to talk about the water too. The Bay of Bengal isn't just a scenic body of water. It is one of the world's most strategically important maritime regions. It's an absolutely critical corridor for major energy shipments, fueling Asian economies. It houses heavily trafficked global trade routes, it's a center for complex naval operations, and it protects a massive network of undersea cables that literally keep our modern digital world online. Securing and managing this bay is exactly what makes the entire BIMSTEC partnership so globally relevant today.
Section 4. Hurdles and the Horizon.
Now let's be clear, it is definitely not all smooth sailing. BIMSTEC faces very real, heavily scrutinized challenges. The biggest hurdles? Well, severe infrastructure gaps for one. Building these massive transnational roads and grids requires immense continuous investment. Tied directly to that are major funding limits. Furthermore, the region is not exactly immune to political instability, which can severely slow down implementation. And finally, despite making progress, complex trade barriers still exist between the nations. So the criticism of slow implementation, yeah, it's a valid one, and it's something the organization has to actively work to overcome. However, the prize at the end of the tunnel is enormous. The ultimate, long-discussed goal of this organization is a comprehensive BIMSTEC Free Trade Agreement, or FTA. If these 7 nations can successfully negotiate and implement an FTA, the impact would be staggering. It would dramatically lower costs for logistics and goods, heavily boost manufacturing across South and Southeast Asia, and create much more resilient global supply chains. For the ordinary citizen, this means more jobs, cheaper movement of goods, and a massive influx of regional investment. So we are left with a pretty massive question to ponder. As geopolitical competition increases and as global supply chains are constantly looking for new, resilient pathways, will the Bay of Bengal become Asia's next major growth corridor? We've seen how BIMSTEC bridges South and Southeast Asia. We've seen the 1.8 billion people relying on its success and the sheer strategic weight of the waters it surrounds. The framework is built, the charter is signed, and the potential is undeniably there to reshape the global economy. The next decade will really show us if these 7 neighbors can truly harness the power of their shared lake. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. As always, keep questioning the world around you. Learn, think, grow. Catch you on the next explainer.